throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting a fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, can I describe it? Used to describe it as the young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. At every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face said I ain't always been the smartest, but I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant, tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. Against all it, I guess so, bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Ladies and gentlemen, Pinky's already rocking the KU stuff. Get this guy. Welcome to another episode of Sports Nonsense and Whiskey. Tuesday, February 28th. Rolling right through the new year. My guy, how you doing, Pinky?
Oh, buddy. I'm feeling good, buddy. I got my whiskey, and then I've got my mango.
Oh, and it's Truly tonight, huh?
Truly. Trying to get it out of the fridge. That gives me a reason to go get something else.
All right. Stock those shelves up. I like it. Well, with tonight's episode, we're going to jump right into some stuff, ladies and gentlemen, because we got a special guest here to join us and discuss some baseball. This man knows a little bit more about that sport than Pinky and I will ever know, and it'd be nice to get some of his insight and thoughts on what's going on and pick his brain a little bit. We'll see if he thinks I'm as dumb with my baseball thoughts as some others that have come on here in days and years past.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, probably. So without further ado, we'll bring in Mr. Tim Wood, former Major League Baseball pitcher. Tim, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing well. Unfortunately, I got one empty hand for the Pinky, but
that's a rookie move, Tim. Rookie move.
I'll learn. The more we go on, boys, I'll learn.
There you go. So, with that being said, former Major League pitcher, Tim, if you wouldn't mind to start, I would love if you would kind of give a brief rundown of how your life in the major leagues came about. Because I think it's a really cool story and can, get people to think maybe outside the box of where they would normally think things would happen.
Well, yeah, that's a great question, Caleb. I grew up in a town in Arizona called Tucson, and I really wasn't much focused on baseball much of my career as other sports. I just wanted to play sports and be athletic, and football was the one that really caught my draw. I seemed to have a little bit more talent in that sport, and then once I got into high school, baseball kind of came more about, and then I was very fortunate enough to play with a guy by the name of J.J. Hardy, who played 13 years in the major leagues, won a Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, guy who has very many credentials. And when we were playing, just happened to be a time I was in the outfield. The guy saw me throw a ball at the home plate and throw somebody out that was tagging for third base and said, we need to get that kid on the mound. Head coach at the time named Bob O'Donnell, who had played minor league baseball, played baseball at University of Arizona, said, I don't know if this kid really wants to play baseball. He already is going to go play college and football. And I don't know if that's something we want to try to put this kid in a place to do. And Coach Bob approached me and I said, absolutely, let's try it. So when it happened, and sure enough, I had a little bit of success. And because I was around the tail of J.J. Hardy, everybody was there to watch him. Everybody. Because they didn't know if he was going to be a first-round pick as a pitcher. Kid was 92 to 94 off the mound with the extreme hammer. And then shortstop potential that he had. So everybody had to come watch him that he played. And just happened to be a couple eyes around me one time when I pitched and asked me if I was interested in baseball. And I said, if this is what we have to do to go apart, then let's find a place for me to play. And there was a little community college in Tucson, Pima Community College, and Coach Edgar Soto gave me the opportunity to play. First year was a struggle. I had to learn how to pitch. It was tough. Got my brains beaten a couple times, but we stepped to the mound every time. And then second year, I finally figured it out and got a little bit more notoriety, and people started watching a little bit more. And then I got drafted again. So took my opportunity and ran with it.
That you did, my man. I just think it's amazing that something you had never thought about, something you never really looked to pursue, kind of fell in your lap, and you decided instead of passing on the opportunity to jump on it and take advantage of it. And man, did it pay off for you in tenfold for sure. So, I think it's important for people to hear that and know that that light may not always be coming from where you expect it to, but it's worth following when you see it.
Yeah, and that's the script that people don't really understand, and there's no actual real writing. And if you can just pursue your dreams, and if you can have an opportunity and really put your full potential into that, you never know what's going to happen. And when I had that opportunity, unfortunately, there was a lot of changes that had to come. I had to move away from home, all that stuff. But wouldn't trade it for the world. It made me grow up real fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. So with that being said, getting to pitch in the major leagues, baseball being a big part of your life, and having, that firsthand knowledge of the way a game works, if you will, the interactions and the idiosyncrasies that are between batter and pitcher and teammates and things of that nature. Big topics right now in baseball with some of these rule changes, specifically the pitch clock. With you being a pitcher, what were your initial thoughts, and then have those changed at all since then?
Well, as far as the pitch clock, I don't think that would have affected me. And the more I'm starting to listen to other players talk that are currently in the game, it's not really affecting them as much because the pitcher controls the baseball. So the good pitchers work real fast. There's so much that goes into pregame that we have all that mindset going into it that we really don't need to take time to comprehend about the batter that's up there. We've already done that before the game. So when we get the ball, it's better that a pitcher works fast to stay in momentum, to stay in tempo. But what really gets me is the disengaging of the rubber, especially when it becomes late in the game, when everybody is pinch running for the guy that gets the base hit, especially late in the game. Playoffs more specifically, Taco Bell's giving away tacos for stolen bases, so if we can get if that is so important to the fans that are watching the game, and we've shortened the bases, the base passes are even shorter. The disengaging of the rubber is the most important rule that is effective to the pitchers nowadays, I believe. The pitch clock, not so much.
Okay. So to me, it feels like the pitch clock itself is, and you've kind of already alluded to this, it feels like it's a huge advantage to the pitchers and actually puts the batters at a slight disadvantage because it does force you to work so much quicker. Do you see that being an issue going forward, or do you think it'll be an easy adjustment for those batters?
Well, for instance, on I think it was either Friday or Saturday night, Boston Red Sox and Atlanta Braves. Bottom of the ninth, 3-2 count, bases loaded. Pitcher was ready to go, catcher was ready to go. The batter was not. Strike three. Game's over. So I think, to your, it might be more for the hitters to adjust to, but at the same time, in that point of the game, do you think there should be a little more time that we should take for those players to be ready to go?
I do feel like in that situation, there should be an addendum to the rule itself. Ending a game in that situation seems like it defeats the purpose of the rule itself. You're trying to speed up the game, not end the game. So there feels like, ninth inning or later, something different with the pitch clock where maybe you can't end the game, but figure out a different set of circumstances that can still maybe penalize the batter for not being in the box, but not lose or win a game on that situation. I would definitely agree that there needs to be some adjustments there.
And then if you want to go talk to the end of the game, so that a new extra inning rule where they're going to start with the runner at second base. What about playing the 10th, 11th normal rules? And then once we get past that, the 12th inning, maybe we can start a runner at second base then. That might speed up the game a little bit. That might eliminate 17, 18, 19 inning games. But for the first few extra innings of the game, play normal baseball.
Let me jump in here, guys. I just wanted to ask.
Go ahead, Pinky. You haven't said anything yet.
Well, baseball's not my forte, mainly because the Rockies suck, and I don't really have like a team to really latch onto and root for. But they're not doing that for the playoffs, right? Like that's only in
they said in the playoffs that it's going to be normal baseball.
Okay, thank God.
And
I don't
I
mind
actually
in the regular season, but I don't want that in
playoffs. Well, I agree with you, Tim. There's certain rules that I feel like should happen. I don't mind the pitch clock at all. As a fan, personally, I hated seeing pitchers take 30, 40 seconds to deliver one pitch. I hate seeing batters readjusting their gloves every time they step out of the box. I personally believe once that foot goes in the box the very first time, you're not allowed to leave it. That's how I feel it should be. There's zero reason to step back out, I feel like. But doing things that alter the course of the game. One of the things I love most about baseball is the chess match that goes on between teams and managers and pitchers and batters and all those little wars, if you will, within the game itself. And when you start taking those away and changing the outcome of those by putting, like you said, a runner on second right away, I feel like that defeats the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's going to determine the outcome of the game. And if we can have a cumulative agreement upon when that decision happens, then we can move forward. But right now, it's kind of feels like a introduction. Even though they've been doing this in the minor leagues for the past few years, I've been local enough. There's a minor league team in our town. I've been seeing multiple games with these rules adjustments being played. And when it gets late in the game, things happen fast. It's almost like the game's over, you know. And is that good for the health of the players? Then maybe that's something that we should look about. But if it's to get the game over quickly, then that's not good for the competition of the players.
That's well said. That's well said. Now here's one that I get a lot of heat for, and I've yet to have anybody give me a solid reason that changes my mind for why this shouldn't be implemented. But I don't see any reason why there's not robot umps in baseball. There aren't a lot of gray areas for balls and strikes, outs, home runs, foul balls. It's pretty black and white. Why not take that error of the human element out and make sure every call is done correctly?
I'm going to go back on what I just said because I've watched a handful of minor league games that have implemented the robot umpire, and it is bad for baseball. Really bad.
Help me understand why.
It is, first off, it's not a true strike zone because if the ball crosses a portion of the plate, so it can be the small front corner of the plate, but it doesn't cross the whole plate. That's a strike in the robotic strike system.
Right.
And that's not a true strike in the baseball industry, I guess if you could say.
Okay.
The ball has to cross the whole entire strike zone for it to be
okay.
To be a strike.
I have yet to hear that. So you're saying just nicking the corner should not count as a strike. It needs to come all the way through that plane in order to be counted.
And that's why the K zone is so tough for people to watch. Because when you see that on TV, all you see is that ball just nick the corner of the plate.
Guilty. Absolutely guilty of that.
You know, and for the ball, the true definition of a strike, it has to completely cross the whole strike zone for it to be a strike.
Okay. All right. That has my wheels turning for sure. Rethinking a little bit. What about using it for outs and foul balls or home runs kind of thing? What if we are using it for just that to make sure that so we don't have another Galarraga situation from Detroit?
Yeah, no, that's the whole replay system, and I'm all about it. That stuff happens so fast, and human error is so minute that the replay system is very beneficial for all sports, you know, and especially, I hate to say it, but with as much money as being placed on sports industry nowadays, that stuff is good for people that are viewing the game, you know, and not only that, but that's going to be a truth fact about how the play was determined. And I'm all about the instant replay.
Okay.
For strikes, it's hard to call because of how that ball crosses the plate.
So if the technology were to come into a level in which that full strike zone could be counted from a robot ump, would that then have you rethinking that option going into the future?
To an extent, but that's still more technology relying on the game than an actual human person.
So I think what drives me nuts, and you tell me as a former pitcher if this was something you appreciated or it was hard to deal with at times, but the different strike zones that a home plate umpire is going to have from game to game, from person to person, that strike zone can differ drastically. From what Angel Hernandez, I believe is his name, to, you know, some of these other younger guys, that strike zone is going to look a lot different. So is that a frustration, or is that considered a part of the chess match, if you will, where it's known and that's what you're working with for that game?
Well, you go into that game knowing how the umpire is calling strikes. But these guys are graded so tough nowadays that there's really very small margin for error for them. And when you see a perfect strike zone called, those umpires are now getting like notarized. They're getting publicly put out there. And when an umpire is really bad, the same thing happens to them.
Yeah.
You know, so with the cameras nowadays and the K zone and all that, these guys are getting graded just like Major League Baseball players are getting graded, you know? So the fact that they're getting that same teaching and education behind how to call the strike zone, I think that's helping getting away from the automatic strike zone.
Now,
So you
Tim,
feel like it's? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pinky. Go
I
ahead.
just want to jump in. Tim, you mentioned the reason, the robotic ump may not work as well, but was it consistent in what it called?
No,
Ooh.
because there were balls that, so let's say a right-handed pitcher was set up for a fastball on the outside part of the zone to a right-handed hitter, down and away to a right-handed hitter. And that ball would come completely inside, and you'd see that catcher literally catch the ball like this. So he's moving 17, 18 inches across the plate. And that ball might have caught the very front corner. And yet the umpire's calling a strike. And the delayed reaction is really tough for hitters.
I'm not gonna lie. This has got me rethinking my thought process a little bit. I was very much in favor of robot ump, and like I said, I hadn't had anybody tell me anything that made me change that. But this is new information that I'm taking in very quickly.
So I have not seen this. Is it like a machine behind the home plate in some case that's reading this, or how are they exactly set up?
So, for instance, it's like the radar gun that's above home plate, and you see it out on the scoreboard. So they also have the same technology above that's sitting on the top row of the stadium. And it's satellite technology that goes down to home plate. And they have the strike zone in there. The home plate umpire has a buzzer on his hip. There's a guy monitoring a computer. He watches that pitch come in. He gets a relay. Then he relays it down to the home plate umpire.
Yeah, I can see where that delay would cause issues for hitters trying to adjust to whatever those pitches are incoming in that strike zone that's out there. That would be difficult.
Well, I mean, I've seen instances where I'm sitting behind home plate, and for sure that ball looks like a ball. The hitter starts walking to first base, and he's 2 or 3 steps into his strike 3.
I mean, that happens in major leagues because there's not as much consistency between some of the guys. But again, if we can just bring some maybe the robotic umps will bring some focus of really trying to get guys on the same page, because it feels like ump to ump there should be consistency. It shouldn't be, well, that ump does this and this ump does that. Like it needs to be more consistent, because a strike zone is a strike zone. There's not really a it doesn't really change. Again, the size might change based on the player, I guess, but
no, it does definitely change on the player. I mean, Aaron Judge's strike zone is bigger than Altuve's.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But width to width, there's 17 and a half inches, including the black. That's a strike, and they say that they're calling the high strike to help hitters out nowadays because pitchers want to throw the ball low. But a high strike is a high strike. When I was playing, there was no such thing as a high strike. It wasn't there. You didn't get that call. But nowadays, these guys are getting that strike at the letters.
So here's a well, I'll use this as the final to transition into some of the other topics we wanted to speak with you on. But do you see any benefit to using that K zone, that robot ump at the plate in conjunction with the umpire to make that consistency more apparent? Is there anything that could be worked together, or do you think it's something that people need to realize more and more that it's just not doing what they think it is, and it should just be kind of pushed aside?
I mean, kind of crazy analogy. If you want to give the umpire 2 strike challenges compared to ruled fair ball, foul ball, safe and out calls, then I would be okay with it, especially because those will be happening late in the game. You know, if that happens in the first and second or third inning, not really so detrimental. But if that happens in the 8th, 7th, runners at second and third, yeah, I would like to be able to see the umpires get together, or maybe the manager try and challenge that strike call. But other than that, we've been doing this for 125, 130 years, you know? So these changes that they're trying to make, I feel might help the game a little bit, but there's some of them that we need to keep the same.
I like that. I like that. So transitioning into another major change would be the shift. And this idea that it's no longer going to be allowed. And to me, that feels like you're just rewarding the poor hitting that has become prevalent throughout the league. How do you feel about the shift ban and what its potential is for the game?
Well, over the past couple of years, I'd say 21, 22 more specifically, you've seen hitters start to go the other way, eliminating the shift. And that's going back to the old school baseball, hitting. We're not trying to produce one run with one at bat. We're trying to advance the lineup, move runners on. The shift has been happening, like I said, for 125 years. They were shifting Babe Ruth. They were shifting Ted Williams.
Thank you.
They were shifting him, and the guy still hit 400. If you're good enough to hit, you will find the holes and hit that ball that way. The pitcher will give you the opportunity. He will, I promise you. With that being said, I think that it's going to allow the bad hitters to become better. The guys that were hitting 200, 215, that were not really hitting the ball with all pull guys, I think that'll help them. But I think that that's something that's going to help the pitchers tremendous.
So, Tim, do you think this will help us maybe get back to a little bit more small ball versus last season I didn't pay a lot of attention, but I noticed a lot of guys were just swing for the fences and average be damned. As long as I hit 30 homers, but I only I was 200 average, but I hit 30 homers, I'm good with that. Do you think this will help bring back a little bit more small ball for teams? I
do agree, but 30 home runs pays the bills, my man. For sure. But without a doubt, and if you look when teams get into the playoffs, that small ball really comes into effect. The Houston Astros were doing it. They were bunting. They were moving runners over. And they're a team that relies on the long ball, But to your point, yes, I think you're going to see a lot more of it in the regular season. I think you're going to make pitchers be more defensively sound. And you're going to have to move runners and transition runners. And with the size of the bases, guys are going to be stealing all the time.
Yeah,
especially
what's up with
when
that?
You can only disengage the rubber 2 times. That's it. And if you don't pick the guy off the third time, that's a balk. He automatically gets second base. So
that is going to be interesting. That rubber, and I'm glad you brought that up again, because in that chess match of everything, that is really going to be interesting to watch how that plays out.
yeah, especially late in games, that's going to be huge.
How are you going to hold a runner on? How are you going to keep him from taking a giant lead halfway to second base?
If I didn't have to hold runners on, my career would have been a lot longer. For sure. And then the 40-40 man, remember 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases? That guy's going to become a lot more talked about.
You think a guy like Trey Turner, with these new bases and some of these new rules can go out there and look at setting a stolen base record or getting close to what Ricky Henderson set?
Well, you said Ricky Henderson, and I feel like his record was one that would never, ever be broken. Ever. And there might be a...
I don't know. I don't know about that. Ricky Henderson's numbers are just insane.
I'm breaking up.
Yeah, there you go. We got you back.
All right.
So go ahead. Sorry, Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, no, that was one record that I thought would never be broken. And now with these bases, and the base path is 4.5 inches shorter than what it was. That the stolen base is going to become more prevalent.
Isn't that kind of fun, though, that idea of those little things that do push the pace of play in a good direction to have more action within the game? Don't you feel like that is good for the game?
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's why they're trying to implement it.
They want more runs.
Yes, they want more runs, just like they want more touchdowns in football. They want more points in basketball. That's what the fans want. But when you're on the field and you have to control that, and they're limiting me about the amount of times that I can do that, that's not allowing me to compete at my highest level.
That's said very well. That's a great point. Great point. Pinky, before I jump into the last topic here, do you have any other questions or thoughts in these subjects?
I mean, you know me, man. I always like to ask folks about their fandom.
We're not there yet. We're not at the fandom yet. Easy.
Well,
easy.
For
hang
baseball,
on. Hang on.
You know, for
what
baseball,
do the fans have to say?
Okay, I got one for baseball. Where in the heck did the Padres get all this money all of a sudden? Am I missing something? Like, they didn't spend money for years, and all of a sudden they're like, you get it. What's going on?
Well, a lot of it has to do with trading away for the past 5 and 6 years leading up to now. And then not only that, but the way they're managing their team and the way they've come about to manage their roster, that they've had the ability to do that.
Because I like it. Padres have been a team that's been bad for so many years. I really like the idea that they're one of those teams that's out there spending money, trying to get that title. And I love seeing that.
No salary cap in baseball.
No, there is not. No, there is not.
Just the luxury tax, but no salary cap.
Yeah, we'll pay it. We will pay it.
Final thought here before I ask you something a little bit more personal. When it comes to baseball, I think one of my biggest complaints over the years has been some of the unwritten rules. Some of them I understand where they came from. I don't necessarily understand why they're still here. And seeing guys celebrate and be happy about a home run, to me, seeing a pitcher then throw at the next guy because he celebrated or however that works within the dynamics drives me bonkers, because to me it's like, if you don't want him celebrating, don't throw that pitch that is going to allow it. And the same thing goes for a pitcher. If he strikes you out, he should be able to talk as much smack as he wants to in your face while you walk back out to the dugout. You don't like it? Make sure you hit it next time. Those things drive me nuts with baseball. How do you feel that that's going to play out, especially with kind of the way the new generation seems to take these things?
Well, I think you're right on cue about this celebrating, because you know how hard it is to hit a home run? You know how hard it is to strike somebody out? I mean, all of that stuff together combined, celebrate, my man. These guys are in the NFL are celebrating when they break out a pass.
Right.
You know, like,
Hold on.
and when they score
celebrate.
a touchdown, it's like we're in a club popping champagne.
Those defensive
You know?
backs celebrate breaking up a pass when they didn't do anything.
Yeah, well,
They might not
that
even,
does happen.
have deflected the ball, but
Yeah.
yet they were in the area where it happened, and they're going to pump their chest out and celebrate, you know? But that's what I'm getting at. If you do it, people don't realize how hard it is. Celebrate. And going back to what you said, Caleb, if you don't like the way he celebrates, get him out next time. People are getting all offended about the way Nelson Cortez, he's doing his stiff legs, stiff bump, jump up, whatever. If you don't like it, get somebody on base. He won't do it anymore. I promise you. You know? So I'm all about the celebration. I'm all about it. But like you said, the competitive side of it, if you don't want somebody to do it, then get them out.
So what unwritten rules do you feel like are valid and have a place in the game still compared to something like throwing at a guy just because he did a bat flip, where that probably should be completely removed from the game?
Depending on the situation, a bat flip late in the game, up a lot of runs because you took a guy deep, is that worthy? To me, it is.
Okay.
Sure. The next guy, it might not be him. It might be the next series when I face that guy again. But the one thing that really gets me is the bunting of the break up the no-hitter.
Oh, you don't like that, huh?
That's the one that just kills me.
Why though?
They
Because aren't they trying to compete still?
What's that?
I was sorry to interrupt you, buddy. I'm curious why that gets at you so much, though. When if the game's still going and I got to get on base one way or another, if I'm going to bunt and get on base, doesn't that then give my team an opportunity to stay in the game? Why should that be looked down upon?
No, depending on the situation. You know, if your run means nothing, 2-0, 3-0, and you're gonna bunt to break up my no-hitter, that's something that's might get under my skin a little bit.
Okay.
And then the one to pad your stats, where you're stealing bases up or down. That's the other one that gets under my skin a little bit.
I can understand that.
Let them have it, dude. Celebrate.
I like it. I like it. Pinky?
You know, I'm just not a fan of throwing at people, period. I mean, maybe that's just the player safety part of me. Like, you're throwing a ball 90 to 100 miles at somebody. I mean, technically, if it hits them in the right spot, man, it's going to be, you know, that could do some serious damage. It's just a game. No, it's just a game. I've never thought throwing at somebody for any reason was a good idea, in my opinion. Balls get loose, and again, they go, you know, you throw a ball. I've thrown a ball multiple times. It never goes where I want it to go. So I can't imagine, and, you know, pitchers, of course, they're going to throw a ball and it doesn't go where they want. But when you're throwing legitimately at a guy, I've never been cool with that.
Well, throwing at a guy with intent is different than throwing at a guy, if you know what I mean. You know,
There's a right way to do it. That's what you're getting at, right? There's a right way to go at a guy compared to just trying to hurt him.
I mean, I've always been the fat kid that played baseball until about my freshman year, and then I couldn't see the ball anymore. so I always got hit, but that might be why I have those feelings. But, I know there's a little bit of like, you're throwing it near him. He's going to back away. He doesn't actually get hit. I just always worry about those one time somebody actually does get hit.
No, and I've seen it. It's scary. Real scary.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, Tim, you have been more than gracious. You provided us a lot more time than I had originally told you we were going to want you for, so I can't thank you enough. I do want to end on this because I think it's something important. It's something that I am passionate about, and I don't have the knowledge or the depth of understanding of any specific game, but I do like to give back to the community. I love to coach youth sports. My area is more in basketball, not baseball, but I know you do a lot of work with youth in your area, and you do love to give back. And I just, if you wouldn't mind talking about that for a moment and kind of telling us your thought process behind that and what you would like to see in the future for those types of things.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I work for a nonprofit organization called the Jupiter Tequesta Athletic Association. And we have a small facility here in the town of Jupiter with a rec program that provides about 500 kids about the opportunity to play. We also have a small travel program that provides the kids about, I'd say, 150 of them to play travel baseball. And nowadays, with the way the world is working, I feel so bad about this, but Perfect Game has implemented so much of their money into the travel baseball program that these kids now have to pay to play. And it's unfortunate for them, but the right kids get the opportunity to play in the right places and get seen by the right people. And if we can give them that opportunity, then we feel that that's what we have to do. We provide multiple clinics, multiple camps. They're all free for all the kids in the town of Jupiter. And they get to come out and be around kids that are their age, as well as coaches that have the resume that I do. And we teach and stress fundamentals because we feel that the kids nowadays in the travel program, it's all about showcase. What can I do to look for these eyes behind me? And instead of going out and playing the game the right way, it's all about showcase. And so if we can give these kids the education to provide and teach these fundamentals and give them ways to show and produce these fundamentals, then that's what we feel we've succeeded in.
God, that's amazing. That's so well said and so nice to hear, because I think one of the things that basketball is having a huge issue with, especially through that AAU circuit, is it's gone so far away from fundamentals and just the highlight athleticism. What can you do for me? That you see that suffering for a lot of years, and it's just recently that you're starting to see that fundamental talent level starting to rise up again within the NBA. So to hear that that's one of your main areas of focus at that level, I think you're just setting those kids up for success.
And that's what we're trying to do. Just give them the platform to succeed. It's one of those things where like the teacher teaches the subject, the kids learn, and then they have a test. And we try to provide that same exact situation for them, except on the baseball field. And the ones that are willing to put in the work will succeed. So just giving them the facilities and the place to be able to put in that work is what we try to provide.
That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. We do have a question, if you don't mind. Bubba is asking what the best part of playing in the MLB was, getting to the show, getting your first career strikeout. What is your top of the list kind of thing moment, if you will?
Haha. Don't ever tell my wife this. June 9th, 2009. Stepped on the mound for the first time. Faced the Baltimore Orioles through 3 innings. Scoreless.
Nice. I'll never forget you coming to Colorado, and because of that trip, you don't ever want to come back. But watching you pitch in Coors Field was pretty sweet. Seeing you under the lights, that was pretty fun.
And I'll never forget that because the first day we flew in, it was completely white.
Yeah.
Got snowed out. The next day, 75 and 70, played a doubleheader.
Yeah. Tim looked at me that night while we were out and said, "Love you, man, but I think this will be my last time in Colorado if I have a choice."
Well, I came back for Shane's wedding.
Mine.
Or yeah, it was yours, yes.
Yeah, you did, but we made sure it was 85 and sunny, so had to make sure I put the weather in the right position to get you back out here.
I'll be back then for sure.
Snow in April. He was not happy with, ladies and gentlemen. I can assure you of that.
Oh man, I love snow anytime. I'm still wearing shorts right now.
Yeah, Pinky's warm-blooded. We're not.
Well, I am a bear. That's me. I'm a bear. I generate heat all the time.
Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us. You are welcome anytime. If you ever feel like there's something that you want to get off your chest and you want to use us as the outlet, by all means. But baseball. I know you were big. You were all-state football, if I remember correctly, as a quarterback down in Arizona. So you definitely have some knowledge and a lot more than just baseball. So we would love to have you on. Chop it up. Anything you want to talk about, we would definitely enjoy that. But really, really thank you for your time and your insights tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim.
No, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. Hey, one last thing. I love the introduction with the whole segment of the sports interactions. We just need more fins up there. That's all.
Yeah, well, we didn't get a lot of the Huskers in there either, so we can't be too picky.
Oh, we did.
We can't be too picky. We'll get back. We'll get back there. Hope springs eternal, my guy.
Call me anytime.
Not this year. Not this year.
I will. I'll take you up on that. We'll have you back on again. Absolutely. You have a wonderful night, my guy, and we'll talk again soon.
Peace, y'all.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Tim. Be good, buddy.
Well, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad he was able to join us. Definitely gave me.
That's one of your cousins?
That is a relation of mine. Yeah, I was going to leave that out, so we didn't seem biased by any means. But yes, that is my cousin. We definitely grew up together. Very proud of him. And he's just a great dude. In all honesty, he's just a great human being.
And he's still in Arizona, right?
No. He lives down in Florida, outside Miami. Jupiter was the town he mentioned. So he's down in Miami area. We'll call it the Greater Miami area. And he's been down there since he started playing ball. So he did play for the Florida Marlins. That's kind of where he ended up settling. Spring training's all down in Florida, so a lot of ball players end up in those areas. But yeah, he's there. He runs a business himself, and he's got a great family. And like I said, he's a great human being. Tim has always been really good to me. Always love getting to talk with him and interact. So I was really thrilled when he said he could come join us tonight. So, and the fact that he said that he'd love to do it again, we will definitely be taking him up on that offer for sure.
We don't look those gift horses in the mouth, my man.
Oh, hell no. Especially not when that's probably the most legitimate thing we've ever done on this podcast.
I mean, he might know more about most baseball topics than we've ever talked about. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, honestly, the way he explains some of that stuff has me rethinking, especially my robot ump stance. The things he said were not
So
made aware to me.
I'm still thinking they can recalibrate that and still make it better.
And they very well might. There might be, as technology progresses and things can change a little bit. But the way he broke that down and explained it makes a lot of sense for sure. For sure. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I know we still wanted to talk some basketball tonight. There's a lot going on. We've got college basketball getting ready to start their conference tournaments. Some conference tournaments have already begun. So that'll be kicking off here. We're going to see very quickly that field get put together. I do have a.
Did you see our man Mattress Mac?
Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't. That guy just wants to blow money at this point in time.
You knew he's a Houston guy. He put money on Houston.
I mean, they've had a good season. They've had good seasons in the past, so it's not like it's a bad bet. But
he'll win $19 million if Houston takes it all.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. So, tournaments coming up. I have reached out to another friend of mine in hopes that we might be able to get some basketball inside advice and breakdowns. Don't know for sure, but maybe cross our fingers, everybody. We might be able to get somebody with a little bit more knowledge than us to come on and talk some basketball too. So that would be fun. I love the tourney. I think the tourney is the greatest sporting event in the world. So I am very excited about the tourney coming up.
What happened last year during the tournament, Caleb?
Why you got to bring up last year, Pinky?
Well, what was something that Pinky was dumb enough to do last year during the tournament?
Well, you did state that you would get some form of body modification if Kansas decided to beat my Tar Heels in the finals.
I did. I promised the people if the Jayhawks would win the championship, that I would get a Jayhawks tattoo.
You did.
And again, I will love this forever because I'm literally sitting in the bar with our buddy Sam. It's halftime. We're down 16 points. I'm drinking going, I don't have to get a tattoo. I'm good. Everything's good, my man. Feeling really, I was feeling bad because I wanted the Jayhawks to win, but then I was like, oh, I don't have to get a tattoo. So I felt good about that. And then they came back to win the game.
Yeah, Pinky jinxed my Tar Heels. Jinxed my Tar Heels.
I am a man of my word. So my tattoo is scheduled for May 17th.
Nice.
Unless somebody cancels and I can get an earlier appointment. So
you'll have it before the tourney really jumps off.
Yes.
Or right as wait, let me look at a calendar here. Hang on.
May 17th is when it's scheduled.
Oh, May 17th, not March. Oh, so way after the tournament happens.
Yeah, he was booked up for a while. So I said,
that makes sense. That makes more sense.
I said I am off for 3 weeks during March. So if somebody cancels on you in March, you call me and I'm gonna be there.
Diego, my man. Maybe since you're waiting, since you got to wait until May, maybe we need to think about adding to it and seeing if we could put another bet down that could, make this a little bit more of just the Kansas logo.
I appreciate that, Diego. It is going on my lower left leg. It's going to take up that lower left leg space for me. So, but I've already. I mean, it's gonna be like this right here. I actually got this in Lawrence this year. Last year, I went to my grandma's funeral in Kansas. I was able to go to the store in KU and get this shirt. So feel pretty good about it. Jayhawks are my team. I don't like tattoos are cool. I have a story behind it. I think that's the one thing about tattoos. Like you want to have it's got to mean something.
Absolutely.
Or have a story behind it. And I've got one. The last time KU won a championship in 2008, I believe it was. I was hanging out with my buddy Duran, and we were in this bar. And I swear to God, he wanted to bet me because the Jayhawks were down 8 points with 3 minutes left. He wanted to bet me that they wouldn't come back and win. I didn't take the bet because I didn't have $50 to bet at that time. But I was like, hey, man, we're not out of it yet. And then they came back to win. So, again, they come from behind. They'll win some championships from time to time. They'll break my heart from time to time. But, I love my Jayhawks.
Fair. That's fair. Pinky knows as well as anybody, Kansas is notorious for one thing when it comes to tournament time, and it's not winning championships, unfortunately. So while I was not happy with him rubbing it in my face for a few months, he deserved it as a fan. So couldn't be too mad at the guy. That being said, get ready because once tourney starts, oh man, that first 4 days is I don't know if there's anything better,
bro. And I'm off.
Yeah,
that's gonna be nice. It's gonna be awesome.
Gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. So we'll definitely once conference tournaments really start solidifying, we'll have an idea before Selection Sunday goes off. Be able to talk a little bit about where we project guys, where we see the field setting up. And then obviously after Selection Sunday, we'll come on that Tuesday before the tourney rolls out on Thursday, and we'll be able to run through the brackets. So that'll be fun as well. So keep an eye out for that. We'll definitely be diving into that hard. The NBA has had a couple very interesting things happen here in the last week. The first one I will say happened last night, and it now looks like after the moves the Lakers made is going to be all for naught, because it does sound like LeBron James' foot injury is more serious than they had originally maybe hoped. And he is sounding like he's going to be out for multiple weeks. And that's the end of the Lakers season. That's it. Street Clothes Davis is not carrying you to the playoffs on his own. Even if he is on the court, he's not doing that. So without LeBron, the Lakers are done. And that will be 2 years in a row that LeBron will not be in the playoffs. So I personally don't think it has any effect on the NBA. I don't think LeBron making or missing the playoffs moves the needle one way or the other. That could be just me.
Well,
but I think there's too much talent and too many good teams out there to say LeBron not being in there is going to drop things.
You know what I like? I mean, a lot of people love LeBron. That's fine. A lot of people want to watch him. When he's not in the playoffs and they're not focused just on him, I think it draws focus to the other stars in the NBA.
Agreed.
And I think the NBA in the last couple of years has done a poor job marketing everybody other than LeBron.
Absolutely.
Which makes no sense to me.
Yeah, especially when you're a star-driven league. When you're a player-centric league and you know his career's coming to an end and you've got all these other faces that you could be really shining light on and you're not. It was almost like they were forced to last year for the simple fact that LeBron wasn't in the playoffs and they had to do it. Not that they wanted to do it. So I agree with you. They're going to have an opportunity this year to correct that mistake, and it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. The next subject, because we don't need to spend too much time on the Lakers. The next subject is one Dame Dalla going Dame time and having the most efficient 70-plus point performance at the ripe age of 32, which is also the oldest player to have a game over 70. If you had an opportunity to watch that game or go back and see the highlights, The way in which he went about that was just spectacular.
Well, I know. I mean, it was funny because I think I got the Bleacher Report, or not Bleacher. I got Sleeper notice that he put up 41 at halftime.
Yeah.
And then when I was watching kind of Bleacher Report, I was just like, they're literally just having him shoot the ball. Like it just didn't matter. They just kept having him shoot. And I was like, guy scores 41 in the first half. You know, fuck it. Let him score like 80, like whatever. Like just let him try.
Well, what's wild is he said in an interview after the game, he came out after half and specifically did not shoot the ball right away because he didn't want to force it. He wanted to allow the game to continue to come to him. So he only had 9 points in the third quarter, and then went gangbusters in the fourth again and went for 21. So I think Dame is the most undervalued, underrated superstar in the NBA right now. I think it's him or Steph Curry, depending on your cup of tea when it comes to best point guards in the game right now.
I mean, well, okay, I was going to say Steph Curry is definitely not underrated, but
no, Dame is.
Yeah, Dame being in Portland, that's the problem. And I give him a lot of credit for sticking it out, but I mean, he would be considered like a top 5 superstar, like if he was in any other location but Portland. And once they let CJ McCollum go, they just don't have anything right now around him at all.
Nothing. Absolutely. What they're doing to him and the prime of his career is just mind-boggling.
But again, he picked that though, and he talks about it. He talks about like he wants to do everything he can to make Portland a champion. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but it doesn't seem like Portland wants to make Portland a champion.
Great point, Pinky. Fully agree with that, buddy, because that's exactly what it looks like right now. He's given them everything, and they've given him nothing, which is it's a bummer. It is a bummer. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, kind of how his career ends, because I'd say he's got another 3 solid years of his prime, the way he's playing right now, before the way he plays the game might start having to change a little bit. But man, appreciate it while he's here, because he is an all-time great. And like I said, depending on your cup of tea, look, I'm a Steph guy. I think Steph is, I've said it before, he's in my top 10 easy. But Dame is there. He just doesn't have the championships that Steph has. That's the only difference, really.
When you watch Dame play, that dude is an awesome, awesome shooter. Like, he's not quite Steph, but he's pretty damn close.
He might have more range than Steph, though. In all honesty, he might be the best deep range shooter in NBA history. Maybe not best pure shooter like Steph is, but best deep range shooter, that very well could be Dame Dollar.
Yeah, good for him. I'd like to see him go for 80, but I know that's maybe being greedy, but
yeah, I think he would have if the game was close. But it was Houston. They were smoking them. So that wasn't going to happen, unfortunately.
Speaking of Houston, Houston got smoked again tonight by the Nuggets.
Yeah, they did.
Joker didn't even play the fourth quarter. He did have another triple-double.
Yeah, he did.
So,
again,
Joker had a triple-double before the fourth quarter. Like, let that sink in, guys. Like, he's had multiple games this season with a triple-double before the fourth quarter. They're like 25 or 26-0 when he has a triple-double.
Now 29 in a row. That dates back to last season. I believe it is 25 now this season.
And again, they're playing the Rockets, so again, you're not going to take too much away from that. But Murray had over 30. Gordon contributed. Porter contributed. KCP, Thomas Bryant. Now the next game coming up, they'll get another shot at Memphis at home. coming up here on Friday.
They need that game bad.
Well, Memphis
just for their own bravado, their own confidence, they need to beat Memphis.
I don't know if you paid attention to that Memphis game.
I did.
Which they were up like 30 for a good point of the game. Those guys didn't miss. Like it was just like literally they did not miss all game, which is unusual for them. And they were having dudes hit 3-pointers all over the place. They're not known for their 3-point percentage. So it was definitely like one of those games that's just like out of the norm. So it didn't hurt me too bad that happened. But sometimes you just play a team like that night, they just hit everything, and there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, and they were also coming off of a travel going into Cleveland, and then from Cleveland down to Memphis, and there are factors that you could say led to the game getting slightly out of hand.
Hey, they had a day off between then. They went to the Memphis hospital and visited all the sick kids. Like, I don't know if travel played a part in it. I just thought more like when I watched the game, it was more of, damn, those guys just didn't miss. Like,
it could be. It could be. I'm not worried about Memphis in a 7-game series. Honestly, I'm not worried about anybody in the West in a 7-game series for the Nuggets. And I'm not trying to say that to say they're going to the finals or anything like that. I just think the Nuggets are so talented in their starting five and so deep with their roster that it's going to be hard for anybody to keep up with them, especially with it looks like the Nuggets will have home court advantage through the playoffs. Teams are going to have to come up to Denver in the Mile High City and run with Denver, and that's not an easy task, especially when you have a team as good as they are.
Anytime you play a team with the offensive efficiency that the Nuggets have, not to mention at least over the last, at least since the playoff, or not the playoff, the All-Star break, they've been one of the top defensive teams as well. So that's a lot to deal with.
It is.
So
it absolutely is.
Luck,
I'm glad you said the efficiency part, because I'm going to transition into I'm getting sick of I want to say this as lightly as possible. I'm getting sick of people trying to put down Jokic's year to prop up somebody else for the MVP and acting like his triple-double is equivalent to what Russell Westbrook did with his triple-double. They're not the same. They're not even close to the same. First of all, Jokic is 28th, I believe, 28th in player usage, player rate. So he is averaging a triple-double, but the rate in which he's playing, the ball is in his hands, he is on the court, is not even in the top 10 of the NBA. It's not even in the top 20 of the NBA. That's how efficient he is with his time on the court. On top of that, I'm hearing people talk about him padding his stats, stat padding. God, that is a lazy argument. I'm not going to say what I really think, but that is a lazy argument.
Look, bro.
Because if you watch the game, he doesn't do anything outside of being a high enough basketball IQ to just make the right play. That's all he does.
Bro, winners don't stat pat. Winners don't stat pat. Losers stat pat. You're in the game the whole game. Again, he had a triple-double. He didn't play the fourth quarter tonight, right? And again, I think J.J. Redick said it best. There is no player in the NBA today that makes the players around him better than Jokic does.
Absolutely.
Because, again, he does not play with an all-star.
No, he does not. Now, I do take that last comment with a grain of salt, because I do believe Jamal Murray, fully healthy, is an all-star caliber player. I think he showed that in the past.
I'd agree with you on that for sure.
So to say he doesn't play with an all-star is a little tongue-in-cheek, because I also believe Aaron Gordon can play at close to an all-star level when you talk about his whole game, because Aaron Gordon is one of the best defenders in the league.
And I think it's deceiving because I just think like, okay, when you take Aaron Gordon, which again, he's having his most efficient season ever. You take Jamal Murray, those guys are definitely all-stars. But again, I feel like overall the last couple of years, like the team is just playing team basketball. They're not playing league basketball.
That's the beauty of the Joker. That is the beauty of the Joker. And that's why he's going to be the back-to-back-to-back MVP. Because he does literally make everybody around him better. Everybody on the team this year is having their most efficient season in history. KCP, best season of his career. Gordon, best season of his career. MPJ, best season of his career. Murray is starting to come into form. He will end up having one of his best seasons. And that's all due to the man in the middle, the leader, the point center, the probably will go down as the greatest all-around center in basketball history at this rate. It's just incredible to watch, and it's sad that people are trying to diminish what he's doing because he hasn't won in the playoffs. Go back and look at what he was working with the last 2 years in the playoffs, and then tell me what else he was supposed to do.
This may not be popular with most people, but I find a lot of people are going to point to two things. A, he's not quite athletic as other guys.
I hate that argument, but yep.
And I mean, I hate to play the race card. I feel like it's because he's white. A lot of the slander he gets. I feel like that's the case.
It's odd because the same things aren't said about Luka Doncic, but he plays the game the same way, basically. Luka doesn't play above the rim. His game's not known to be crazy athletic. But he seems to get a lot more love for what he does than the Joker does, and it doesn't make any sense. So I hope, I pray, as a basketball fan, as someone who loves the game, as a Homer and a Nuggets fan, I hope we finally get to see the Nuggets in the finals and Jokic get to play on the highest level, because the numbers he's put up in the last two playoffs are MVP numbers. But because he didn't win, people want to try and knock him for it.
Oh,
but he didn't have anybody playing with him.
His numbers in the playoffs are insane.
Yes.
Insane numbers.
It's not like he got to the playoffs and then just fell off the map. He did everything he could still. He just didn't have a cast to support him when it needed it.
So I think since the last time we came on, we haven't got to talk about the Kings, who are on a little bit of a streak. But they happen to play in the second highest scoring game in NBA history in this last week.
Who's got the first? Do you know, Pinky?
I do not know that.
The Nuggets were in it.
Well, that would make sense. What
in, and this is what drives me nuts. Early 80s.
Okay.
I might have been the 1980. But people act like the game in the NBA used to be like 60 to 70, 70 to 80. There was no such thing as high scoring. Like, dude, if you know anything about basketball, honestly, before the bad boy Pistons showed up, the 80s were running. They were running. And then the bad boy Pistons started showing up. The Celtics, to an extent, with McHale and Parrish and some of those guys. Lot less athleticism and a lot more physical contact. And that became prevalent for, the mid-'80s to the early '90s. It wasn't as big of a stretch as people like to claim it to be. It was really only a maybe 10-year period where the NBA, if that, was that physical bad boy brand of basketball. So this high scoring is not something new. What is new is the way the high scoring is being done with a lack of defense. Back then, it was just they were running. It was a fast-paced, in-your-face, up-and-down game. That's not what it is now. Now it's more of a lack of defensive effort that's allowing the points to be scored as much as they are. So I don't put a lot of stock into what Sacramento did. I also think Sacramento better be careful because they're not battle tested. And just because you're the 3 seed doesn't mean you're going past the first round, especially with the way the West is. So it's a nice little story.
Hey,
they've got some really nice young pieces, and
the
it'll be
Kings
nice to
haven't
see if
made
they
the
can keep
playoffs in
going.
so long. We're gonna enjoy that. We're gonna enjoy that story.
I don't know if we can say we. I don't know if I'm enjoying that story per se.
I like it, man. They've been a shit team for so long. Just enjoy it, man.
It just feels like an aberration to me based on that ownership and front office. It feels like they got lucky this year, and I don't feel like it's sustainable. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my feeling right now. I love Jalen Fox, and I love DeMontis Sabonis.
They're going to make it to the second round.
Hang on. I'll tell you right now how I feel about that. No. I'm looking at the standings. No. If the playoffs started right now, I would say no. They lose to Dallas in the first round.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I would say they lose to Dallas in the first round. If the playoffs started right now, that's where I put my money. Nice little regular season story. Not going to come to fruition in the playoffs.
Put it in the book. If that happens, whiskey bet. If that happens, whiskey bet. Let's make it happen.
We need to think about this because Golden State's a half game back at Dallas. I also think Golden State would beat them in the first round.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll put something on the books. We'll put something on the books depending on where that 6 seed falls.
Diego, that's totally not racist, my man. Totally not racist.
An observation.
I just don't feel like people want to agree that a white guy can be one of the best players in basketball.
Especially an Eastern European white guy. That makes it even worse. I think there might be some truth to that.
A guy that didn't even have a draft promo. He had a Taco Bell commercial. I mean,
he did. He did have a Taco Bell commercial run through him. You're right, though, Pinky. The Sacramento is a good story. I just feel like it's fool's gold in the long run. That's how I feel about it right now. And I hate saying that out loud because, your buddy Greg is a huge Sacramento fan. I'm happy for him that he finally got something to root for.
We don't have to cater to Greg. Greg's an a-hole. He knows he's an a-hole. He likes a shitty team. That's fine. But they're actually good this year. So.
Fair. That's fair. The last thing I'll say for the NBA before we roll out for the night is I am baffled by how the power rankings continuously have the Nuggets at 3. How Boston and Milwaukee are continuously put above Denver, and people talk like if Denver did make it to the finals, either one of those teams would smoke them, is just mind-blowing to me. And it just shows a lack of awareness and yet again, a lack of viewership from the media on actually paying attention to what the Nuggets are doing and the way they're playing and the efficiency in which they've gone about it. And I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, the top 2 teams in the East this year might help make up for some of what the West is doing. But top to bottom, the West is still better than the East. After you get out of number 4 from the East, there's not a lot there. The West still has a lot. So let's put a little bit more stock in the fact that the Nuggets do play in the West, and it is still the better conference.
Cody, I like the purple of the Kings. I do. I ain't gonna lie. I do.
Cody, don't save yourself some heartbreak, man. Save yourself some heartbreak and do not jump on that bandwagon.
He's already on the bandwagon, man.
Oh, poor Cody. He dumps his NFL team for good reason. We convinced him to become a Broncos fan, and we failed him miserably. I'm just trying to save him the same heartache in the long run. That's all. Just trying to save him from himself.
I can see that.
But yeah, I expect it. So it's nothing new to me. I expect the media to overlook or talk down on the Nuggets. It's what they do. It's always been what they do. But let's just keep in mind that the way in which they are playing and the fact that they haven't had a full squad all year, they stay healthy come playoffs, and people are going to recognize and realize real quick what they've been missing. And I'm saying that as unobjectively as I can, because just being an NBA fan, I truly believe the Nuggets are the best team in the league this year, and a lot of it has to do with the way they play the game together. And they play both sides of the floor, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens come playoff time. Cody, I've heard that place is gorgeous as far as stadiums go, sitting down on the waterfront in San Fran. I've heard that is one hell of a stadium situation down there.
Yeah, if you can afford the tickets.
Unfortunately, Pinky, we live in a day and age where, getting to go to sporting events live is not accessible for the common man anymore. And that sucks because my late teen years to my mid 20s, I saw a lot of amazing games live, and looking at ticket prices and the cost of going to those events now, it's going to be hard to take a family these days, and it keeps getting worse.
It has to be an event for you to take, your family.
It does, and there are a couple events coming up this fall that I'm going to do my best to be at. So, kids' college tuition is going to get dipped into, and they're going to have to figure out their own.
As I always say, fuck them kids.
Oh, well, my guy, you got any final thoughts this wonderful Tuesday evening?
I know we didn't even talk about QB carousel. I was excited. I was going to talk.
I know it was. I thought we would just have Tim on for 10, 15 minutes, and he was gracious enough to really sit down and chat with us. So, figure taking advantage of that is in our best interest this week.
I will say, Avalanche on a tear. One of the top teams in the NHL since the All-Star break. They've actually had 3 separate back-to-backs, and they pulled away with, I want to say, like 11 out of 12 points or they did really well in that stretch. They are looking pretty good, and that's like half of that's without Cale Makar, one of their best players.
Cody, can we get a thumbs up for you being on next week, and we'll dive into some hockey? I think it's about time. What do you think? What do you think, Cody? You in?
It's definitely time, Cody. Definitely time.
Get you on next week. We'll talk some hockey. We'll get your insights and let you discuss the QB carousel next week. How's that sound, my guy? Binky, that work for you? Do some hockey with Cody. We'll talk about some QB carousel next week, and I'll mention some whatever basketball highlights need to be talked about.
Trade deadline. Woo, woo, woo.
Cody's in. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been set. Next week, hockey. Little Cody insider. I was gonna say our little hockey insider, Cody, but that just all came out terribly. So I apologize, Cody.
I know. I don't think Cody's little by any means.
No. Yeah, Cody, you're in. Be ready to go next week, my guy. We'll do a hockey rundown. We'll talk this QB carousel that has Pinky and I fascinated, and we'll talk a little basketball. What jumps out on highlights and top dollar. On that note, as always, Pinky, spend that time with your loved ones, your friends, your family.
Hold on, I got something we got to talk about.
Damn, 2 weeks in a row you're throwing me on this.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
It doesn't mean as
Don't
much to
forget.
Pinky as it does me, obviously.
Don't forget, we are on the MHRT network.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, jump on the other shows. We have the 5280 podcast that comes on before us. We've got the Cluster Puck podcast. They talk mainly Avs and NHL. I did check them out. Pretty darn good. And then we've got the AFC West podcast, as well as Bronco Bill on Fridays. And then the guys usually do a watch party of the Avs games. So really cool stuff on the network. Check it out.
Cody, we're working on the the audio. We'll get back to you, fans. We are sorry. We did tell you that we'd be on all your listening podcast platforms, and we are not right now, so we do apologize.
I mean, we technically can blame that on the producer, but
We're not.
Pinky, we're not doing that yet. But we'll get there, Cody. We are aware and we are working on it. So we'll get that going. And Pinky, that was well worth interrupting me. So well done, sir. We are very grateful. We love being a part of this network. Everybody has been super gracious, really friendly, a lot of knowledge. So definitely check everything out. And support. That's what I'll say. If you like what we have to say, if you like what we have to offer, go on to the different platforms, support us, support the network, because this network is what's given us the opportunity to speak our minds. So the more that's supported, the more opportunities we'll get. And, maybe just maybe one day we'll get to do this and nothing else. So it's always the goal. Am I good? We okay?
I think you're good, my man. You're good.
On that
I got
note,
a little bit of whiskey left, and
cheers to my dude. Love spending my Tuesday evenings with this guy. And spend it with your loved ones, friends, family, whoever you consider to be in your inner circle. Do not take those moments for granted. As always, we love everybody. We appreciate you. Cheers. We're out.
peace.